Hello guys, Weeb Online and I'm back with a new series What If Naruto Was a God of Shinobi Part 1. If you enjoyed this series, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more series like this, subscribe to my channel. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
The sound of heavy breathing could be heard echoing through Konohagakure's dark streets. The individual had been running for a long time. When they kicked in his door, he was sleeping in his apartment, dreaming of ramen. He jumped out of bed and tried to flee. When one of the attackers noticed him, he launched a kunai at him. The small knife remained lodged in his shoulder. It came to a halt for a split second but knew he couldn't stay long. What had he done to deserve this village treatment? He was born in this town like everyone else. But he was singled out. His own village cursed his existence for reasons he didn't understand. He had committed no wrongdoing. He was a 5-year-old boy with a dream of becoming Hokage. What made them despise him so much? He heard his attackers' voices and began to move when someone appeared in front of him. "There you are. You little demon," snarled the man. He kicked him in the chest, knocking the wind out of his tiny frame. He was so hard on the wall that he spat blood. He struggled to stand, but his mind was on the mob that had finally caught up with him. "Please, please," he begged. "I did nothing wrong." "You did nothing wrong," it said. "You killed our loved ones," yelled one. "You are to blame for the death of my son." Another person yelled. "You should have been executed on the day you were born." Someone yelled. "I'm not sure what you're talking about," he stated. He screamed in agony as another kunai became lodged in his other shoulder. The mob began to gather glass and rocks. They hurled the dangerous objects at him. They didn't mind if it hit him. They didn't mind that he was crying. He raised his arms to protect himself. But it was ineffective. Why don't they stop? Why isn't anyone showing up to assist me? Why do they despise me? Why? Demolish them. What? Destroy? Eliminate? And rip the flesh from their bones. What is your name? Take a look at what they've done. They are deserving of death. Unleash your rage, your fury. The young boy let out an inhumane roar, which brought the mob to a halt. The roar could be heard all the way through the village. The mob stood there watching as a red chakra engulfed the small blonde. His wounds began to heal at breakneck speed. The red chakra transformed into a fox. "It's the Kyuubi. He's letting loose the Kyuubi," yelled a female. One of them charged at the boy, hoping to take his life. But he never made it. He reached for the ground, blood splattering from his throat. Everyone looked on in horror as the boy's blood-splattered hand. He fixed his gaze on the rest of them. He charged at the mob without giving them time to flee. 3 figures ran across house roofs. Each wore a mask and carried a sword strapped to their back. They were reacting to the chakra blast they had felt earlier. As they ran across the rooftops, one of them noticed blood on the ground. They landed on the ground and looked around. They discovered more blood and discovered that it led into an alleyway. When they entered, they were met with horror. They were taken aback by what they saw. The entire alley was covered in blood. The ground was covered in bodies and limbs. They all appeared to have been attacked by a swarm of beasts. A small boy was in the midst of it all. His entire body was drenched in blood. When one of the ninja recognized him, he reached for his sword but was stopped by the leader. He looked the boy in the eyes. They were taken aback. He kept staring at his hand, a confused and scared expression on his face. The bloody child was approached by the leader, who had silver hair that stood up. He knelt to his level and stared him down. The small boy flinched and tried to flee. "Wait a second. I'm not here to cause you harm," he informed him. "No, you're going to attack me like they did," he yelled. "I promise you I won't. Just relax. You can rely on me." "What happened here? And why are you bloodied?" That brought the boy to a halt. He returned his gaze to the mutilated bodies. He then returned his gaze to his hands. "Did I do it? I can't recall anything. They threw things at me. And then I started freaking out," the boy said. He screamed and grabbed his head. "What is going on with me?" The silver-haired man dashed forward, placing his hand on the child's head. The little boy came to a halt, screamed, and collapsed. The man stood there watching as tears streamed from the little boy's eyes. The man sighed dejectedly. "Minato-sensei, I'm truly sorry. Take a look at what they've done to your son." Hiruzen Sarutobi did not consume alcohol. He enjoyed a good cigarette and reading his students' work. He rarely drank because it was a depressing activity for him. Tonight, however, would be a different story. He had just returned from the hospital, where he had just finished visiting Naruto Uzumaki, a boy he considered to be his grandson. The information provided by his ANBU deeply disturbed him. He, like several others, felt the chakra wave that was released and recognized the type of chakra it was. He had summoned Jiraiya in case the seal was deteriorating, but he knew it wasn't the boy's fault. To think that these people would assault a 5-year-old inside his own home, it made his blood boil. And he felt no pity for those who died. Regardless, Naruto used the Kyuubi's chakra, and the council was furious about it. Several people called for his death. and a certain war hawk tried to capture him. He unleashed so much of his killer intent in that room that he sent one of the council members to the hospital. He stormed out of the council chamber and into his office, telling his receptionist not to bother him. When there was a knock at his door, he took a sip from his saucer. I stated that I do not want to be bothered. Hiruzen stated, "We need to talk. Naruto, please allow us to enter." The old man sighed as he realized who was behind the closed door. Enter. The door opened to reveal who he had suspected. Koharu Utatane and Himura Mitokado were his old teammates, esteemed council members. "What else can I do for you tonight?" he sarcastically asked. "Don't turn us into adversaries, Hiruzen. We've been teammates for far too long for it to come to an end." Himura stated, "Just teammates, huh? Glad to hear our time together didn't turn us into friends." Sarutobi. "Stop, I know you love the boy, but you can't just brush this under the rug." Koharu injected himself. "You want me to kill the boy or make a weapon? Sorry if I seem grumpy about it," he hissed. "What do you want us to do then? His life will be in danger as soon as word gets out. Minato would not want his son to be killed by the people he was supposed to protect." Himura stated, "Do you think I'm unaware of that?" Hiruzen yelled. He slammed his saucer against his desk. He turned to face the village as his father lay dying. "I swore to him that I would protect him. I feel like I let him down." He expressed his regret. "Not everyone sees the boy as the demon. He is a bright hope, but this must be addressed," Koharu stated quietly. Hiruzen sighed and turned to look out his window. He straightened up and turned to face his former teammates. "I will take full responsibility for Naruto," he let them know. That statement astounded Koharu and Himura. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Koharu inquired. "I will take Naruto in, train him in the arts, and help him control his demon along the way," he stated. "You're insane. That's impossible," Himura yelled. "I refuse to kill the boy, and I would burn this village down before letting Danzo take him. I won't be questioned about it. Anyone who objects to this will be dealt with personally by me," he yelled back. Before Koharu spoke, the two exchanged a long stare. "If this is what you want, Hiruzen," she stated. "Koharu," Himura yelled, "I have no reason to question your judgment. If you believe that this is the best option, I will not stand in your way. Your decision will be communicated to the council," she stated. Hiruzen didn't say anything or thank them. He walked out of his office, past them. He had to inform Naruto of the changes in his life. Naruto became aware of a vision of white. He moaned as he attempted to move. His body complained, but he ignored it. He pushed himself into a sitting position and attempted to orient himself. "You've awoken, which is a good sign." Naruto turned to face the sound and smiled at the person he saw. "Old man," he exclaimed. Hiruzen gave him a friendly smile. He became quiet and looked at his grandfather figure. "Are you sure I'm not in the hospital again?" "I'm scared." "Naruto, what do you remember from last night?" he inquired. The young boy was deep in thought. "I was sleeping, dreaming of ramen," he explained. Hiruzen laughed, knowing he wasn't the only one who liked the boy. "That's when I heard someone kick in my door. I knew it could have been some villagers and some ninjas, so I tried to flee. As I jumped out, one of them caught me and hit me with a kunai. I ran for a while, but they caught up with me. They began throwing rocks and glass bottles. I was getting badly cut when I heard a voice. What voice is it? It was a frightening voice. It instructed me to do bad things. It yelled at me, and then everything went black. When I awoke, there was blood and guts all over the place. I thought it was those men with animal heads until I noticed I was covered in blood. Did I murder those people?" "Old man," the elderly man sighed as he looked at the boy. He realized he couldn't keep his dark secret from him any longer. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but you did," he stated. "In that case, I am a monster," Naruto lamented. "You are not. They are the monsters who are attempting to kill you," Hiruzen elaborated. "Why do they despise you, Grandpa?" Naruto sobbed. "Do you believe me, Naruto?" The small boy gave him a nod. "Do you remember the Kyuubi story? The Yondaime kicked its $$ and killed him. That is only partially correct, as you say. The Yondaime kicked his ass, but he couldn't kill him." Naruto gave him a perplexed look. "The Kyuubi is made up of raw chakra and evil intent. It is an ancient beast that only wreaks havoc when the world is plunged into evil. Despite his great skill, Yondaime was unable to kill the beast. He could only seal him in a newborn's body." That astounded Naruto. Something clicked in his head at that point. He wasn't as stupid as people assumed. It just took him a while to process everything. "Isn't that the newborn he put the Kyuubi in?" Naruto inquired. Hiruzen slowly nodded. "How come I was chosen? That's why I asked if you trusted me. That information is not available to me." Naruto was about to yell at him when he was stopped by the Sandaime. "I can't tell you because of the increased risk you'd be in," he continued, seeing Naruto's confusion. "The Yondaime, Minato Namikaze. had many enemies. What if it was discovered that he used you to seal the Kyuubi? They'd think you were a weapon he left behind to protect the village. They'd do anything to get you killed. Naruto froze when he heard that. It was bad enough that the village wanted him dead, but the fact that other villages were attempting to take his life was eye-opening. I suppose I understand. Hiruzen chuckled at Naruto's sour tone, but he quickly captured his attention. Now listen, because last night was too dangerous for you at home, I would have waited until you were 7 before sending you to the academy. But we need to get you started right away. From now on, you will be my student, he stated. Really? Naruto inquired joyfully. In celebration, he began to jump up and down on the bed. Okay. I'm one step closer to being Hokage. Do you still want to be Hokage? He inquired. Well, I'll have to find a new reason to be the Hokage, but I'll still take that hat from you. Hiruzen was taken aback by this boy. Even after everything he's been through, his will remains unbreakable. He gave his future student a friendly smile. Let's get you out of here. Naruto, right. Naruto threw off his covers and searched for his clothes. He couldn't help but wonder what the future had in store for him. Naruto was led to a small room within the Hokage mansion by Hiruzen, with the exception of a bathroom and kitchen. The room was fairly large and provided everything that his previous apartment did. Naruto simply looked around his new home, taking everything in. How do you find it? Hiruzen inquired. It's fantastic. Are you certain I won't be a bother? Naruto inquired. Not at all. Hiruzen replied as an ANBU member appeared to his left. He nodded as he whispered something. Hiruzen returned his attention to Naruto after the ANBU vanished. Naruto, I have a matter to attend to. Get settled in and get some rest. Please contact my daughter if you require any assistance. She's with my grandson down the hall. All right, Naruto said. Hiruzen had left, leaving Naruto alone. He tripped and fell onto the bed. He decided that getting some rest wouldn't hurt. The Sandaime sat in front of the clan chiefs and council. He wasn't surprised to see them there because word had spread about his taking in Naruto. So you've called me here. What do you expect from me? Hiruzen inquired. We'd like you to explain why you're taking in young Uzumaki. Fugaku Uchiha insisted. As usual, right off the bat, grumbled the old cage. Enough, Sarutobi. The council will want to know why you took the boy. Hamura stated. I'd keep an eye on your tone, elder. This village is still led by me. If you want to challenge my authority, you must stand up and face me. Hiruzen poses a threat. Please, Sandaime, we'd like to know. Hayashi inquired. As you requested, I am enrolling Naruto as a student. I'll teach him how to control his power. He elaborated. Are you insane? You're going to teach him how to use that beast chakra. Fugaku yelled. Even I have to admit that you've crossed the line. Inoichi also stated. And how exactly did I do that? I've already stated that I will not kill him. I've also previously stated that I would never give him to Danzo. He is not a weapon, but rather a young man who bears a burden that none of you cowards could ever bear. Several members were enraged by Hiruzen's words. How dare you? Fugaku began, but he was cut off when Hiruzen stood up and struck them all with deadly intent. Be silent or I will strike you down, he commanded. Nobody had ever seen him so enraged. They took him seriously and carried out his instructions. Right now, all I can think about is what Minato thinks of all of you. He gave his life for the sake of this village, and all he wanted was for the boy to be recognized as the hero that he is. With your treatment of his legacy, you've all spit on his grave. Some people bowed their heads in shame. Yes, I realize what I'm doing is completely insane. But what do you think will happen next if he doesn't learn to control the Kyuubi's chakra? Are you willing to endanger the villagers? Are you saying we're at fault? Inquired a council member. This time, it wasn't just a swarm of villagers. He was attacked by ninjas. According to Hiruzen, none of our clans would dare. Choza began, but Hiruzen interrupted him with a folder. He took a look inside and gulped. Yes. A Chunin from your clan and a Genin from the Inuzuka clan were among the dead. I suppose I should punish both of you for not controlling your members. Hiruzen poses a threat. Fine. So what do you intend to teach him? Fugaku inquired. For starters, self-defense, tactics, and chakra control. I will no longer allow the boy to be a target. It's none of your business what else I teach him. Fugaku growled as he said this. Many of the council members still looked dissatisfied with him, but he looked at them swayingly. Hayashi rose to his feet and faced him. Well, the Hyuga clan will back you up, but remember that he is your responsibility. If this happens again, we will approach the daimyo. As he stated, I comprehend. If there is nothing else, I will depart. Hiruzen stood up and walked out of the room, leaving several people upset. Naruto was with Hiruzen the next day in a private training ground. Hiruzen wore a black ninja outfit over a brown karate top. Naruto was dressed similarly to him, except that his top was a dark orange color. Okay. Naruto, before we begin, I'd like to go over some things with you. You will refer to me as sensei from now on. I also expect you to give it your all. I'm not going to whine or complain. I will punish you the moment you do. Do I make sense? Hiruzen inquired solemnly. Hello, sensei. I will do as you say, Naruto stated with the same seriousness. Hiruzen gave him a friendly smile. All right, now drop and give me 20. Hi. Naruto knelt on the ground and performed 20 push-ups. Hiruzen then had him do sit-ups, jumping jacks, and squats, among other exercises. Naruto completed each one without complaint or even a sweat. Hiruzen was astounded by the boy's endurance. Have you warmed up yet? He inquired. Certainly, sensei, Naruto responded. All right, stand by my side. Naruto followed orders and stood by him. Please move about 2 feet to my right. Naruto stepped back 2 feet. All right, now you'll be watching my every move. Keep an eye on me as I perform this kata. Naruto stood there watching Hiruzen perform a taijutsu form. When it was finished, he returned to his starting point and told Naruto to follow. Naruto did exactly that. He made numerous errors and messed up the kata, but Hiruzen was patient and worked with him. Hiruzen began his control after an hour and a half of forms. He instructed Naruto to remain still and ensure that the leaf remained on his brow. Naruto, who was always on the move, found it difficult. He was never one to sit still. Naruto was greatly frustrated when the leaf fell over several times. Hiruzen was once again patient with him. He even participated in the exercise and explained it to him. This exercise lasted 2 hours. They then returned to their forms. Naruto performed the kata once more. He continued to make mistakes, but not as many as before. Hiruzen did correct him for each mistake and explained that each strike should be executed exactly as he intended. He even demonstrated to Naruto how he wanted him to punch for maximum effect. When he called for a break, it would be around noon. The two sat and rested under a tree. Hiruzen noticed Naruto was finally out of breath. Nonetheless, he was confident that he would be ready soon. Sometimes growing old stinks, he pondered. He looked at Naruto. Do you know why I'm training you? Naruto, he inquired. Do you want me to control the Kyuubi? Naruto stated. Part of it is to give you control over the Kyuubi, but that isn't the only reason. I want you to be ready when I enroll you in the Ninja Academy in 3 years. The majority of your training will be in taijutsu, chakra control, and tactics. If you surprise me, I might teach you a jutsu or two. Really? Naruto yelled. Calm down. The techniques will not be particularly powerful, but they will be useful. However, you must earn them, Naruto. I won't give you anything else unless you work for it. Does that make sense? Hiruzen inquired. Yes, sensei. I will do my best to please you. Hiruzen ruffled his hair and laughed. He could see why Jiraiya enjoyed training the hard workers. Geniuses were far too simple to train. He made a mistake when he formed his own team. Because of Orochimaru's natural talent, he had overlooked Jiraiya. Tsunade chose a field in which he had no experience, leaving her to her own vices. He sighed and rose to his feet. Break time is over. Let us get back to work on today's training. Naruto had been living with the Sarutobi family for 2 months. He had gotten to know the old man's daughter, Toshiko, and was relieved that she did not regard him in the same way that many others did. He initially assumed it was because the old man was present, but she took him aside and the two talked. He was overjoyed to learn that she saw him as the hero that Yondaime desired. He was also close to Konohamaru, a 1-year-old. The two clicked because Konohamaru was intrigued by Naruto's whisker mark. He knew the old man had a son, but he wasn't in the village right now. He had inquired about it with Toshiko, but she had advised him not to. Speaking of the old man, training with him had been extremely difficult and exhausting. He was a strict enforcer who did exactly what he said. He remembered when he had stepped out of line and made him clean the Inuzuka's dog kennels by himself. Still, it was worthwhile because he felt himself beginning to grasp it. The forms were becoming easier, and his muscles were remembering how to perform each punch, kick, and block. The leaf exercise was getting better, but it was still difficult for him. Nonetheless, it caused him to concentrate more. He was currently at the Hokage Tower. While he sat still, the old man was doing paperwork. Hiruzen had told him that this was an observation exercise. He explained that a great ninja observes the situation rather than diving into something he is unfamiliar with. He went on to say that many missions had failed due to a lack of information or observation. Naruto found the exercise tedious, but he did as he was instructed. The door burst open, and a man was ushered in. By his own admission, he was a noble and a Hyuga. He carried himself as if he were a world figure. Naruto simply assumed he was a snob. He watched as he and the old man talked. With obvious boredom, he continued to observe everything around him. He returned his attention to the noble, Noting that his hands did not appear as delicate as those of other noblemen he had seen, they appeared stiff. And he had a small case of callus on his hand. Further observation revealed that the man was always alert. Far too alert for a noble. When the conversation was finished, the man bowed and exited the office. Naruto turned to face Hiruzen after exiting. Was that guy a ninja? Sensei, he inquired. How come you say that? Naruto, at first, I assumed he was like all the other Hyugas I'd seen, but his hands show signs of extensive training. There was also the fact that, even with the 4 masked guys you had hidden, he seemed guarded and alert. He elaborated. 4. What makes say that I have 4 masked guys in this office? Hiruzen inquired. There's one outside the window, another in the corner near the window, and 2 guarding the door under what appears to be a genjutsu. Hiruzen smiled at his student and expressed his admiration for him. That was a very good observation. Naruto, to answer your question, that man was Hayashi Hyuga, the Hyuga clan's leader. He is one of the village's most powerful ninjas. In fact, the majority of Hyuga nobles are ninjas. Naruto was taken aback by this. We're going to spar today, and we're going to put this little exercise to the test. Sensei, yes. Naruto and Hiruzen squared off. Naruto turned to face the man who had been training him for the previous 2 months. He watched as he assumed a fighting stance. Naruto adopted a similar stance and scrutinized his opponent. Okay, he's a lot older than me, so he can't be any faster than me. His stance is set up so that he can use his power. So if I move quickly enough, I can win this fight. He pondered. Are you ready, Naruto? He inquired. Yes, he said as he prepared to charge. Attack. Hiruzen gave the order, and Naruto took off. As Hiruzen threw a punch at him, he was within striking distance. Naruto saw the punch coming from a mile away and dodged to the left. He quickly threw his own punch, which would have resulted in a hit. To Naruto's surprise, Hiruzen caught the punch and hit the blonde with a back fist. Naruto was thrown into the air by the blow, but flipped back into his stance. Hiruzen was on top of him and hit him with a knee, forcing the air out of his lungs. An elbow knocked him to the ground. Hiruzen backed away as Naruto struggled to stand. He sat up after waiting for Naruto to regain his breath. What happened to you now? Hiruzen inquired of Naruto. I underestimated you, Sensei, he stated. How come you underestimated me? I went with the fact that you were older and that your stance was for power rather than speed. I figured if I moved quickly enough, I could hit you. I knew that much. Naruto, I'm Hokage for a reason. I may be old, but I haven't slowed down. In addition, I have fought in 3 wars, so my experience is vast. What you must understand is that first impressions are not always correct. In a fight, your first impressions can change in an instant, and if you are not prepared, you will perish. Are you familiar with Naruto? I believe I do. Naruto responded. All right, let's move on. Remember not to rely on your first impressions. You have until dinner to get a hit, Hiruzen explained. Naruto nodded and assumed his stance. Hiruzen took his lead and ordered him to attack. Naruto charged at him and engaged him in combat. Naruto never hit the old man, but he did learn a valuable lesson that would save his life in the future. Hiruzen stood on the earth-made poles. He held a staff in a defensive stance and awaited Naruto's attack. He looked all around him as many clones of Naruto surrounded him, staffs ready for attack. Naruto ordered the attack and struck. Hiruzen defeated the first wave easily, but he realized that it was only used for cover. He blocked the stab that came from within the smoke and spun around to destroy another clone. Naruto didn't give up as he continued to use the smoke as a way to attack and lashed out at Hiruzen. The old man countered every attack with some ease, but he was almost struck from below. He grabbed the staff and pulled Naruto up. Once in his face, he kicked him into the tip of a staff which dispelled him. He sensed more attacks coming from below and jumped in the air. Waiting for him were 2 Naruto ready to strike. They both brought their staffs down on the old man's staff. Hiruzen winced a little but gave it little thought as 2 more Naruto jumped at him, intending to catch him in the gut. Hiruzen spun his to break out of the stalemate he had. He smashed his staff into one Naruto that disappeared in a puff of smoke and kicked the other Naruto that also disappeared. As he came down, he raised his staff in the air. He landed and drove the butt of his staff into one of the earth poles. Several other staffs shot up from the ground and destroyed the poles and the clones. Once the dust settled, there were no more poles other than his. Naruto was struggling to free himself as one of the poles caught his shirt. Hiruzen took some deep breaths and sat down on the pole. He looked at his student and smiled. He almost had you that time, Sarutobi. Perhaps you are getting too old to be sparring with such a young child, spoke the staff. Perhaps you're right, my old friend, but I get some joy out of these spars. He is only 6 and he has progressed so far, Hiruzen said. Agreed. He is as hardworking as his father, said the staff. An eye appeared and looked at Hiruzen. I've been meaning to ask, Are you going to have him tap into his tenant's chakra? I have not found a safe way to do so. I tried meditation and he has accessed his mental world, but it was only for a short time. He doesn't truly focus on it as he gets bored very easily. Do you think it's wise for him to even try? Wise? No, but it is necessary. While I am glad that Juria's scan of the seal is positive, he will need to learn how to use that chakra at some point. Minato was a crafty man and didn't do things for no reason. Quite right. Naruto was able to free himself but fell on his butt. He held it in pain, making Hiruzen and the staff chuckle. Well, if there is nothing else, Sarutobi, I will take my leave. If you do plan on allowing him to sign the contract, please summon me so we can work out a deal. Of course, Enma. I shall call you, Hiruzen said and bowed. The staff suddenly turned into a man-sized ape. The ape did a hand seal and disappeared. Hiruzen stood up and jumped off the pole to check on his student. Another year had passed, making Naruto 7 years of age. His skills in taijutsu, tactics, and ninjutsu had grown greatly. He had taught the Kawarami no Jutsu and Henge no Jutsu, as Jiraiya Scan had reported. Naruto's coils were massive and produced more chakra than anyone in the village. Sarutobi knew that this would be used to hold the boy back, so he taught him the Kage Bunshin technique. It was the perfect technique for him, as he doubted Naruto would ever get tired from using it. He felt that it was time for the boy to join the academy. However, the council had a problem with that decision, or rather the Uchiha clan had a problem with that decision. They had called an emergency meeting to discuss it. Hiruzen sat beside the elders and had everyone seated. It has come to my attention that there is a problem with Naruto Uzumaki joining the academy. Hiruzen said, yes. I feel that it is unfair that he joins the academy. He has had special training and will be more advanced than the other students. Fugaku stated, care to explain that, Uchiha-san? I know from my sources that you have taught the boy the Kage Bunshin Jutsu. Fugaku explained. That sent warning bells in Hiruzen's head. Have you been spying on me and my family, Uchiha? That could be considered treason. Hiruzen spat. That is not what I said. My sources told me about what you taught the boy, and it is a B-rank kinjutsu that should not have been taught to a 6-year-old, Fugaku contended. Is this true, Hiruzen? Tamura inquired. Yes. I did teach the boy the technique, but it was for a good reason, Hiruzen explained. Sorry, Hokage-sama. But I don't see a good reason for showing a kinjutsu to a 6-year-old, Shibai said. I agree. But why did you teach him such a jutsu? Inoichi inquired. I assume you've all read Jiraiya's report on the seal. He received several nods. If you continued to read, you would have noticed that Naruto's chakra coils are the largest in the village. This is because Minato's seal allows the Kyuubi's chakra to leak into Naruto's chakra network. So his coils were adjusted to deal with the other chakra source. The regular Bunshin Jutsu was beyond him even if he learned chakra control exercises. In our training, I showed him the Kai Nabori no Shuji and he still, however, that is still a dangerous technique for a child, and you were very irresponsible, Hokage-sama? Hayashi stated. Hiruzen realized he wasn't really siding with Fugaku, but rather making a point. He smiled at the council, which made them nervous. Would you like a demonstration to put your mind at ease? He asked. They murmured and mumbled before returning their attention to Hiruzen. What do you mean? Fugaku inquired. Come by tomorrow and all your questions and concerns will be answered. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Naruto was on his way to Ikaraku's for a birthday celebration. He received a large sum of money as a reward for his performance today. While he didn't know why the council was there, he deduced that they were planning another heist. The Uchiha clan leaders and several other council members' expressions told him everything he needed to know. He was now on his way to celebrate. He turned around to see smoke coming from another direction. He followed his curiosity to the location. When he arrived, he discovered a massive house on fire. He turned to go get help when he heard 2 people scream. He was torn because he knew he needed to go get help, but it would be too late and the people would be dead. Naruto dashed into the burning house. His decision made, he covered his mouth and kept his head down to avoid getting smoke in his lungs. He moved quickly toward the sound of screams. When he got to a room, he kicked the door down and saw 2 people hugging. Naruto took a look at them and realized they didn't have much time. He made several clones and took something from his pocket. Several Konoha ninja attempted to break into the house from the outside. A young 9-year-old girl tried to enter the house but was stopped by her uncle. The front of the house was completely destroyed by an explosion. Naruto and 2 of his clones dashed out of the house before the flames consumed it. Naruto and his clones threw the 2 victims to the ground. The Konoha ninja dashed off to investigate the 2 Naruto had brought out. The clones were expelled, and Naruto took a few more steps before collapsing. Naruto awoke to find himself staring at a blank wall. He groaned and shielded his eyes from the blinding light. I have to stop ending up in here, he grumbled. I completely agree. Naruto said as he turned to face the Hokage. There was also another man nearby. I remember you. You were at my house. Naruto explained. Yes, my name is Unkai Kurama. And on behalf of the Kurama clan, I thank you for your brave efforts, which saved the lives of my brother and sister-in-law, Unkai said as he bowed to Naruto. The compliment made the blonde smile. Did you guys manage to put out the fire? Naruto inquired. Both men exchanged nervous glances with one another. What? Nothing for now. Get better, and we'll talk about it. I promise to keep you updated, Hiruzen said. He and Unkai departed, leaving Naruto befuddled. Hiruzen called out, Naruto, please come in here. Naruto entered Hiruzen's private room, where he was doing his calligraphy. He was dressed in the training gi he used to train him. Naruto sat in front of him, waiting for him to continue. Hiruzen sighed and turned to face him. First and foremost, I want to say that I am very proud of you. You acted without thinking, but your actions saved the lives of 2 people. However, there are a few things you should know about that fire. The first is that it was not real. It was a genjutsu. Naruto was taken aback. Are you sure? Sensei, Naruto asked. Those flames felt very real, and I have the burns to prove it. Do you remember that man from before? Naruto asked. Nodding, that man is a member of a small clan known as the Kurama clan. They are a clan of some of the most talented genjutsu users. They are very talented in that area. But once in every generation, there is a Kurama with skill so great that they can cause physical damage to their opponent. Naruto was stunned and amazed. Hiruzen continued speaking. Right now, there is a Kurama with such talent. What will happen to that Kurama? Naruto wondered. At first, I had a tutor try to help the person control their ability, but the tutor proved incapable. I had that tutor seal her power when I thought she would be a threat, but their power broke the seal and unleashed its fury. Hiruzen explained. You speak as if this power has its own mind. According to Unkai, the power takes the form of another persona, and if the Kurama is unable to control this persona, the persona will take over, Hiruzen explained. So, Sensei, why tell me? The girl, whose name is Yakumo, has been loudly telling the clan that I was responsible for the fire. The clan knows that is not true, but she is adamant that I and her tutor, Kurenai Yuhai, plotted the whole thing. She probably overheard what Kurenai and I had discussed and mistook it. Now I am faced with a dilemma. Unkai and the clan want me to put her to death. Her parents are unwilling. Naruto noticed his serious expression when he looked at him. Well, I won't kill her. It's not her fault that she was given such a gift. It's just an evolutionary process. I do believe that a stronger seal is required, but this seal should only be used with her consent. I know how it feels to be confused about why things happen. I would sit with her and her family, explain what was misunderstood, and offer my plan to them. A good plan, Hiruzen said. But what's to stop her second persona from defeating the next seal? Then I would recommend a better seal master, one with years of experience. Naruto replied. Do you truly believe that experience is important? Yes, because an experienced seal master can learn from the first seal's mistakes and improve it. Why not just use the stronger seal and confine her? Her parents will not allow it. And if you try to silence them, she will be even more resentful of you, Yuhai-san, and all of Konoha. Hiruzen examined his student carefully. Naruto did not flinch in his presence. He gave Naruto a friendly smile. Your response was satisfactory, but you could have been a little more convincing, Hiruzen said as Naruto stood up. Hiruzen returned the blonde to his room. Naruto was discovered standing in front of the academy gates 2 weeks later. He was dressed in black pants, a dark orange and blue kimono top over a mesh shirt, black sandals, and arm guards. He wore his hair in a small ponytail in the back of his head as he let it grow out. He was a little worried about being here because he knew some of the instructors would be on the lookout for him. When he felt a hand on his head, he looked up to see the Sandaime. The wise old man smiled and pushed him forward. Naruto groaned and moved into position next to the other. After a while, one of the instructors took his place in front of the class. He was dressed like a chunin, with his hair tied back and a scar across his nose. Greetings, my name is Uruka Yumino, and I will be your teacher. Please accept my greetings and welcome to the academy, he said. Naruto wondered what the next 4 years would be like. He sat in the back and waited for the games to begin. As he entered the building, he noticed the teachers staring at him. He tried to ignore it as best he could, but he was still concerned about what they had planned. He began to wonder who would be his teacher for the next 5 years. The door opened, and the instructor from earlier entered. He remembered his name as Uruka. All right, class, let's calm down, he said. The class was still a little boisterous. Class, they continued to ignore. Haruka inhaled deeply. Sit the hell down and shut the hell up, he yelled. The class quickly fell silent, puzzled as to how he did it with his head. After gaining their attention, Haruka returned to normal. Listen for your name, Haruka said, reading off each name on his list. He paused briefly when he reached Naruto's name. Haruka recognized him and treated him with respect. His parents died fighting the Kyuubi, and he despised the demon for it. He knew Naruto wasn't the Kyuubi, but he couldn't stop himself from becoming enraged. Still, he was an instructor, and he was not one to go along with the crowd. He would remain objective and simply wait and see. All right, let's start with some history, Haruka said, causing some to groan. First, which two clans founded Konohagakure no Sato? Uzumaki, answer the question, he said as he looked around. Naruto stood up and faced him. Naruto responded. Konohagakure no Sato was discovered by the Senju clan, led by Hashirama Senju, and the Uchiha clan, led by Madara Uchiha. Haruka said, very good, Uzumaki. You may be seated. Naruto sat down, and Haruka continued with the lesson. Naruto stood outside with everyone else, each line facing a wooden target with 5 spots with bull's eyes. Naruto watched as everyone threw their shurikens. Some of them were terrible, while others were decent. This one girl was amazing, hitting every target dead on. She would be very scary when she graduated. It was now his turn, and he stood at the line. The guy watching his line glared at him, but he quickly changed his look and handed him some shuriken. Naruto sighed and looked at the target. In seconds, 8 shuriken hit each bull's eye. While it wasn't dead on, it was close enough. The instructor frowned, but Naruto had already moved. Naruto ducked and weaved as the instructor lashed out at him. He heard Haruka tell the guy to take it easy, but he ignored him and continued his assault. He noticed that he was getting winded, so he stopped dodging. The instructor fell to the ground when Naruto's fist connected with his gut. This was a spar. Uzumaki, there was no reason to hit him so hard, Haruka yelled. Naruto apologized. Sorry, sensei. I didn't control my strength. I won't deduct points this time, but you will control your strength when sparring in the future? Haruka said. Hello, sensei. While Haruka checked on his colleague, Naruto walked out of the circle. Naruto walked out of the academy, taking in the stares of the parents who had come to pick up their children. He wasn't expecting anyone because he knew the Hokage would be busy, and sighed as he returned to the Sarutobi compound. Naruto. Someone called out, and Naruto looked around until he saw Toshiko, who was accompanied by Konohamaru and a bearded man. What are you doing here? Toshiko-nisan, Naruto inquired, surprised. What's up with that attitude? I came to pick you up from your first day of class, Toshiko said with a smile. Naruto was surprised but quickly changed his expression. He turned to see the bearded man and looked at him. The man looked back but didn't introduce himself. He placed a cigarette in his mouth, but it was quickly taken away by Toshiko. Stop being impolite and introduce yourself. The man grumbled but followed orders. My name is Asuma, he introduced himself. And Naruto looked surprised. I mistook you for still being in the capital. Is it wise for a Shugenin Jainishi to be away from the daimyo? Naruto inquired. That's unexpected. How did you find out I was a member of the group? Well, the sash is a dead giveaway, Naruto simply stated, making Toshiko laugh. But to answer your question more specifically, the old man informed me that you had joined the group, but he says it with sadness. I've never been able to figure out why. Naruto elaborated. I see he's been showing you how to observe. Let's get started. Toshiko sighed and motioned for the befuddled Naruto to follow as Asuma began to walk away. Asuma stood on the balcony of the Sarutobi compound, looking out into the night sky and watching the full moon glow, taking a puff of his cigarette and blowing it out. I see you have found my smoking spot, Asuma said, continuing to stare at the moon. Hiruzen did not take offense at his son's behavior. They have always been at odds. After a few minutes, Asuma spoke. I was surprised you hired a student. Don't you think you're a little old to be chasing after a 7-year-old? He inquired. Perhaps, but I get a rush out of teaching him, Hiruzen replied, making amends for a mistake made years ago. Yes, but not since I made a promise to Minato that I would protect him. I failed twice in the last 2 years, and I will not fail again. Why am I returning here? Old man, because you requested it. The daimyo released me for duty, Asuma inquired, finally turning to face Hiruzen. Hiruzen stated, I heard about the coup. I could have dealt with it. I don't care what other people think. I am not a traitor, he elaborated. I know you're not a traitor, but the people at the capital believe you are. The people are concerned because of your presence. Kairaku has already left and is having a good time at the fire temple. I don't want to be here. Father, Asuma explained, I know you don't, but I need you here, son, Hiruzen said as he walked away from him. And Asuma sighed as his life became even more complicated. 3 weeks in, Naruto was getting the hang of the academy thing. The instructors still gave him a hard time, and the kids either avoided him or tried to bully him. The only bright spot was that Uruka treated him fairly and was genuinely impressed with him. He didn't pick on him like the others, and the two even shared a bowl of ramen together. The other kids picked on him because he couldn't do anything other than taijutsu. Naruto talked to him and told him that those idiots didn't know anything. The two would spar and improve their stances and attacks. He didn't know how he stacked up in class, but he had a feeling he was at least in the middle of the pack. Uruka entered and called for order. After the third time being yelled at, the class obeyed. Today, we will be adding another student to our class, he said as a girl entered wearing a purple and lavender top with only one sleeve and a matching skirt, with long brown hair and light brown eyes. Introduce yourself to the class, Uruka said. Yakumo Kurama is my name. I'm 9 years old and a Kurama clan member. I enjoy gardening and painting. My life goal is to command my clan's Kekkei Genkai, become clan leader, and be the greatest genjutsu user. Naruto was surprised by who this girl was because it had been a while since he heard the name Kurama. Truth be told, they had kept to themselves a lot lately. What Naruto didn't know was that the Kurama clan had stopped a couple of incidents as a way of thanking him for saving the leader and his wife. Uruka motioned for her to take a seat, and she walked toward it. Yakumo gave Naruto a glance before moving on to her seat, but he ignored it and began to focus on Uruka. When lunchtime arrived, Naruto was alone with his ramen, thanking the gods for Toshiko, who would defy the old man's strict eating menu. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him, and he looked up, surprised to see Yakumo. Is your name Naruto Uzumaki? She inquired. Yes, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Is there anything I can do for you, Kurama-san? Naruto inquired, watching as she bowed to him. Thank you very much for giving me a second chance, she said. Puzzledly, maybe I should explain. It goes like this. Flashback. Hiruzen stood to the left of Kurenai, facing Yakumo, Mirakumo, Yuroko, and Unkai Kurama. Yakumo glared at both the Sandaime and Kurenai. Despite her mother and father explaining everything to her, Kurenai had no faith in her. While Hiruzen ordered her to do something without her consent, Yakumo, now that everything has been explained, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you want to be a ninja? Hiruzen inquired. And Yakumo smiled as he continued. While your daughter is physically weak, she can grow stronger with proper training. Her lamentabilities, however, pose a problem. With your permission, I propose a seal of Yakumo's Kekkei Genkai. I'll send one of my students to do the sealing because the one you tried earlier didn't work. So you're going to summon Juri Isama? Yuroko inquired. Yes, when the sealing is completed, I would like Yakumo to attend the academy to learn. I can assure you that we have some of the best instructors available to assist young Yakumo. You mean to keep an eye on me? Yakumo said as her father looked at Hiruzen, but the Hokage held out his hand. If you want to put it that way. The answer is yes, Yakumo. You must understand that your ability is extremely dangerous. If it weren't for my student, I would have you placed under constant ANBU patrol. He gulped. Now, I've decided that the Kurama clan is very important to Konoha, and having you angry at Konoha will not do. So, if you still want to be, you'll be admitted to the academy. Kurenai. As for your genjutsu, no way. I'm not going to have her as my teacher. Kurenai did not respond, but she did have a frown on her face. As Yakumo stated, I'll teach her. Unkai promised. Brother, murmured Mirakumo. While I strongly oppose this choice, I do like Yakumo. I'll be her teacher. Showing her the Kurama way, he elaborated. Good, I'll send for Juri right away. Hiruzen said, smiling. Present. I don't know what you said to the Hokage, but I thank you, and you will always have a friend with the Kurama clan. Yakumo said and bowed. Naruto grinned but had a sweat drop on the back of his head. Inside his office, Hiruzen watched from his crystal ball. He found it just too funny on how nervous Naruto was. Jacken was many things. He was older than the other students. He was bigger and stronger than the other students. And he was a bully to many of the students. It was just something he liked doing from time to time. But he was smart about who to mess with, and he made sure he wasn't caught. He chose Naruto Uzumaki as his next target. He didn't care if the instructors glared at him or if his drunk ass of a father told him to mess with him at every turn, because as long as he wasn't getting in trouble, who was he to say no? The problem was that Naruto didn't do anything when he messed with him. He either ignored him or didn't bother with him. which irritated him so much that he almost belted him and would have if Uruka. When a shadow fell over Naruto and Yakumo while they were eating their lunch, he sighed and turned to face Jacken. If it's not the pipsqueak, and I see you finally made a friend, Jacken laughed. Hello, Jacken. And what do you want this time? Naruto stated. Naruto-san, do you recognize him? Yakumo inquired. Naruto-san, why is she treating you so well? Demon, Jacken inquired. Excuse me. But what are you doing bothering us? Maybe you should leave us and go play in the mud, Yakumo yelled. So, what did you say to me? I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were stupid as well as slow. Jacken clenched his fist and threw it, intending to smash the girl's face, and when he was suddenly in the air, he landed hard on the ground but was in pain as Naruto held his arm in place while twisting his wrist. Listen, Jacken, you may be a bully to me, but the moment you attack one of my friends, everything changes. If you do it again, I promise I'll treat you much worse, Naruto stated icily. Why, you little shit, snarled Jacken. That will suffice. Both of you, Uruka exclaimed, and Naruto let Jacken stand up, glaring dangerously at the two in front of him. I see you haven't been listening, Jacken. What, however? I did nothing, he yelled. I sat through the entire thing. I believe you. And your father should meet after class, Uruka informed Jacken, who flinched but continued to stare at Naruto. Uzumaki, don't get your hopes up. Naruto sighed as Uruka dragged Jacken away from the academy. Hiruzen waited until Naruto returned from the academy. He needed to do another exercise with his pupil. He was very proud of him, but he felt that he was still a bit too rash. Yesterday's spar showed that he still did not think before acting. He wasn't only training him to be able to defend himself, but he was teaching him. Naruto blasted out in his training clothes and was waiting for the training exercise when he heard the footsteps rush to the balcony. Naruto was surprised to see the old man still in his Hokage robes. Aren't we supposed to start training right now, Sensei? Naruto inquired. We are, indeed. Sit down, Naruto, Hiruzen said, and Naruto sat down in front of him. I am very proud of your recent progress. You're getting better at chakra control, taijutsu, bujutsu, and observing. Thank you very much, Sensei. However, your tactics have left me very disappointed. I must admit that you have an uncanny ability to come up with a plan on the fly, which is very useful. Still, you need to improve your tactical planning, so I've devised a new exercise for you. A shogi board is in front of you. Many warriors and generals plan in this manner, Hiruzen explained. So, is this a game? Naruto inquired. Yes, but it will teach you patience and sharpen your strategies. I'll demonstrate how the game is set up and how each piece is used. Then we'll play a game, with your goal being to win. Is that correct? Hiruzen simply smiled as he demonstrated the game of shogi to his pupil. Hiruzen kept himself from laughing at his pupil, watching as Naruto sweated and racked his brain as he looked at the board. Hiruzen wasn't surprised that he hadn't been forced to use the Agura Gakoi to beat him. Naruto made his move, but it was very hesitant. Once it was made, Hiruzen dropped in on Naruto's territory. I think that's enough for today. Hiruzen chuckled. No way, I'm not finished yet. Another game, Naruto yelled. You can't expect to win every time you play Naruto. I've been playing it for a long time and I'm very good at it. So you can't expect to win every time, Hiruzen explained calmly. Yes, Sensei, Naruto grumbled. Hiruzen laughed as he ruffled Naruto's hair. I want you to remember and analyze your performance today. We'll play this once a week to test your progress, Hiruzen said as he led Naruto into the compound. Yakumo and Lee worried about their friend. He was muttering to himself and scribbling notes to himself. Yakumo immediately recognized the doodles as a shogi board. What are you up to? She inquired. I have to figure out what went wrong, Naruto replied. Naruto explained further because Lee and Yakumo were perplexed. The old man is putting me to the test with a game called shogi, which involves tactics and patience and sounds boring to me. I'd think a Cage student would be a little smarter than this, a voice said. All three turned to see a boy being trailed by several girls. Yakumo was staring at Naruto for some reason, which Naruto noticed. And you'd be? Naruto inquired. His name is Hyuga Neji, and he is known as the Hyuga Prodigy, and he is in line to be this year's Rookie of the Year, Yakumo stated coldly. Boyfriend of yours, joked Naruto. Naruto ducked behind Lee as a result of her glare. She returned her attention to Neji. What do you want, Hyuga? Yakumo demanded angrily. I came to see why the Hokage would waste his time with someone like this, he explained. He turned to face Naruto. I don't see anything special about him. His destiny is wrapped in failure, Yakumo sneered, and Lee appeared offended. Naruto cast a calculating glance at Neji. I had no idea the Hyuga clan possessed such a talent. So you can see into the future? Neji, Naruto inquired. Neji was surprised by the question because he expected him to turn as red as his two companions. He maintained his calm demeanor. These eyes can see deep within your soul. Which is why the Hyuga is Konoha's most powerful clan? Neji explained. I believe the Uchiha would disagree. But who am I to judge? Naruto said. You were saying that your Kekkei Genkai can see the future of what will happen to me. Naruto said. Everyone is born with an unchangeable destiny, which they cannot change or fight. We must all submit to that destiny and accept it. You can train with the Sandaime, but it will not change the fact that you will be nothing more than average. Neji explained. Are you saying this because you work for the Hyuga branch house? Naruto inquired. Neji maintained his stoic demeanor. The head wrap is a dead giveaway. I've met some branch house members, and they seem to hide it. Plus, I think you're a little off. Oh, what makes you say that? Neji inquired. You say we are born with an unchangeable destiny. But I do not believe that. If that were true, I would have been dead. My friend Lee would have quit a long time ago due to his condition. And Yakumo would have been locked up somewhere. Yet, we are here and making our dreams come true. I will become Hokage. Lee will be a ninja of great skill without Gen and ninjutsu. And Yakumo will be the greatest Genju. You talk about being Hokage. But the Hokages were all great ninja. And you'd be nothing but average, Neji pointed out. Perhaps. But every Hokage was average at first before becoming great. You are a prodigy. So perhaps you can become Hokage. Naruto wondered. That is not my destiny. I am a caged bird trapped within the clan. My destiny is to serve the Hyuga. Nothing else, Neji explained. Well, as your eyes said, I'll be nothing more than an average ninja. If that's the case, I'll strive to be better and greater than the previous Hokages. I believe that's my destiny, Neji said, his gaze fixed on Naruto. It had piqued his interest. It appears that we disagree. I was expecting a very different outburst from you, Neji admitted. Well, training with the old man has its advantages. Naruto smiled. Neji walked away from the three, smirking. Yakumo was taken aback by Naruto's expression. I can't believe it. You actually matched Neji in a word battle. I've never seen him back down when he starts spouting that nonsense about fate and destiny, Yakumo exclaimed, as Lee praised Naruto. He just scratched his head. The young Uzumaki spent the next 2 weeks racking his brain. He was getting better at shogi against Hiruzen, but he could still win. That board seemed to be mocking him. The old man just kept telling him that this was a patience lesson. But the game was so boring and difficult. What did patience have to do with being a ninja or Hokage in the first place? He took a few deep breaths before continuing his match research. His investigation was cut short when he heard something flying through the air, as 3 shurikens struck the tree he was leaning against. He rolled out of the way. He turned to face Jacken. He hadn't seen Jacken in a long time and was perplexed as to what he was doing here. He returned his gaze to the tree and saw that the shurikens were real. What the hell, man? Those could have killed me, yelled Naruto. What do you think I'm doing, Pipsqueak? I'm sick and tired of your face. And it's not like I'll get in trouble anyway. Everyone in the village seems to despise you. So I'll be doing them a favor, Jacken snarled. Naruto wasn't surprised that he knew how the village treated him, but he was suspicious of his motives for killing him. He had no way of knowing about the Kyuubi. No one in the village would have taken the risk of certain death. Jacken hurled more shuriken at Naruto. Naruto leaped out of the way and into the woods. Where are you going, Pipsqueak? Exclaimed Jacken as he followed Naruto into the forest. Naruto turned around to see Jacken tossing shuriken at him, but he stayed far in front and near the tree's trunk. Naruto saw that Jacken was primed with shuriken pouches, so outlasting him was out of the question. He suddenly recalled something about this forest. Naruto leaped from the tree and rocketed to the left. Jacken pursued him and continued his assault. Naruto made a quick turn and returned very quickly. Jacken jumped on him and threw more shuriken. Naruto continued to move and dodge until he found what he was looking for. Naruto dashed toward the ground, followed by Jacken. Naruto was hit in the back by 5 shuriken thrown by the insane kid. Jacken smiled, but Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke. What the? Jacken asked, perplexed. Jacken, yelled Naruto. When Jacken turned around, he was struck in the face with Naruto's staff. Jacken landed hard and skidded toward the fence Naruto was heading for. Naruto landed and watched Jacken writhe in agony. Naruto was perplexed by his pain because the blow was not particularly strong. Also, why was Jacken clenching his fists? He stood there watching Jacken struggle to stand. Okay, Jacken, you're going to answer some questions. Why are you trying to kill me? I've done nothing to deserve such actions, Naruto said. It's your fault. I wouldn't be in as much pain if it wasn't for you, Jacken exclaimed. What are you talking about? I haven't seen you in 2.5 weeks. And all I did was twist your wrist, you'd be fine the next day. Naruto responded. He stood there watching Jacken reach for his weapons. Is this a plot you devised? Or are you working for someone? I'm not going to tell you shit. I'm going to finish you off, Uzumaki, Jacken exclaimed. I'm afraid that won't be possible. A voice said. Jacken and Naruto were suddenly surrounded by people wearing masks. Lay down your weapons and raise your hand, said a large man wearing a bear mask. Naruto immediately agreed and dropped his staff. Jacken recognized this as an opportunity and grabbed a few shuriken. The masked people were much faster and easily defeated Jacken. As they lowered him to the ground, he screamed in agony. The leader became aware that he was coughing up blood. What are you doing? And why are you being so harsh on him? We took him down easily. We didn't slam him down or anything, the worried ninja explained. Sir, I believe he was already injured when he attacked me and I defended myself. I hit him toward the ground, and he was reeling in pain and clutching his sides, Naruto explained. Shut up, Uzumaki, exclaimed Jacken, looking around. The man in the bear mask decided to investigate. Take him to the medics. Knock him out if he resists. Uzumaki, you'll explain this now. If I recall correctly, you're not allowed within 100 feet of an ANBU facility, he said. Naruto simply laughed sheepishly. Hiruzen sat, flanked by Hamura and Koharu, waiting for the two to deliver their reports. One was the ANBU captain who discovered the two boys, and the other was the hospital's head medic. He first addressed the ANBU captain. What have you to report? Hiruzen inquired. Naruto probably lured him toward that spot, probably aware that we have sensors around the place from his previous prank. The ANBU captain reported. Hiruzen nodded and moved his gaze to the medic. Naruto was correct about Jacken's injuries. The only injury that Naruto caused was a small bruise on the side of his face. Jacken has multiple bruises on his chest, stomach, and back. There was mild internal bleeding that was easily taken care of. We also discovered that this is not the first time. We saw that all of Jacken's bones have been broken before. Hiruzen frowned as he read the report. He turned to face the ANBU captain. Bring Jacken's father in and have Ibiki speak to him, Hiruzen suggested. Isn't that a little extreme? Koharu inquired. Extreme, yes. But if this boy is being abused to this extent, the boy's father must be investigated, Hamura said. Hiruzen nodded, and the ANBU captain disappeared. Keep the boy in the hospital until his injuries heal, and I will personally visit him to get to the bottom of this, Hiruzen said. The head medic bowed and walked away. He approached his advisors. What are your thoughts? Well, we don't think this boy had anything to do with it, Koharu said. You think the father had something to do with this? Hiruzen inquired. Perhaps we should have Inoichi investigate his mind, Hamura suggested. I think that's what needs to be done, Hiruzen agreed. Koharu appeared concerned about such an action. We don't have a choice. If this boy has been abused for so long, he will try to conceal it. We need to know how long this has been going on and fix it. What if it can't be fixed? Wondered Koharu. Then Jacken will be removed from the program. We don't need such insecurity among our ranks, Hiruzen explained. Hamura and Koharu both nodded.
I will continue the story in next part, so turn on the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Till then, be Weeb offline.